So, Mirage Men by Marc Pilkington. I think I'm saying that right. This is the book version, and I'm not sure if this was the intent, but the way I perceive it to be is this is essentially the book version of the documentary of the same name. And this is a fascinating look into the UFO phenomenon from the standpoint of disinformation, how it affected the modern culture. A lot of fascinating stuff there, but it's a very frustrating read because he goes back and forth the entire book, and especially towards the end, of trying to decide whether or not aliens are real or not. And that's kind of the underpinning of the whole book of, are aliens real? Is this a lie? Is it real? Is it not? Is this all an illusion? So some of that gets a little bit frustrating, and but along the way, there's some really good information. Like you'll see in typical fashion, I've dog-eared a lot of pages in here. He has some very good conversations with the late Gabe Valdez about the alleged underground base in Dulce, New Mexico. So that alone is worthwhile because in this, Gabe Valdez tells him that there's some mine workings that connect to the base, and tells him that he could possibly even show him where the entrances to this base are, and gives him some kind of vague descriptions. And that's the closest I've ever heard to anyone really explaining that where a real terrestrial, like actual underground base could be. But again, very frustrating to read because this gets into Richard Doty, Air Force, I think he was enlisted. He was an Air Force AFOSI agent that was tasked with filling the UFO community with disinformation by way of Paul Benowitz. So he presents himself as a source for this, and anytime you see his name pop up, you should be very, very, very wary because he purports to disclose all kinds of things. Now, if I understand correctly now, I don't know how much he gets into it in this book, but if memory serves me right, I think now Richard Doty claims aliens are real, and he is personally outing it, and he is laying it all on the line and telling you for real that aliens are there, doggone it, and the U.S. government's covering it up. The only problem with that is he won't disclose classified aircraft projects or secret bases or anything like that, but he will disclose something that is potentially shattering to all the major religions on the planet and the very fabric of society, that something that would be classified at the highest levels, he's willing to run around to any convention that'll have him and tell you about that. But if you ask him about a optical camouflage or something like that, he clams up and, oh no, that's classified. So it's important to remember that Richard Doty is first and foremost a channel for disinformation. And Christian Lambright in Ex Descending has some really good information about Richard Doty. I think Ex Descending is only available on Kindle, but it's well worth it to run that down because in that he gives a really good background on both Richard Doty and John Lear and their connection to the CIA. And I think that's a real critical piece of this puzzle. So, Mirage Men, good book, but again, it's one of those you kind of got to put your waders on for some of this. If you are experienced in investigating the UFO field, you kind of know who some of these players are, and you can be appropriately skeptical when need be. So there you have it, Mirage Men by Marc Pilkington. Good stuff, but again, kind of a weird ending and kind of a frustrating read.